Relics podcast. We're here. We're here just before Christmas, turns out.
Barely. We're barely here. We
Been
just got here.
Fucking wild week, especially for work. Like, I have not had any downtime at all. And I was talking to somebody who, like, inexplicably had a crazy heart attack. And I know it's a weird way to start the podcast, but they were like, really what the damage was caused is like not sleeping for more than like 4 or 5 hours, you know, constantly working crazy, being high stressed, high strung all the time. And it just starts to eat at your body eventually. And that's like a big contributing factor to heart conditions among healthy people, I guess. At least that's what his cardiologist told him. And I was just like,
well, that's encouraging because you just described
my life for 25 fucking years. Exactly.
I know. I'm sitting here like the meme of the monkey, the stuffed monkey going.
Yeah, just kind of looking and walking. Yeah. No, that's yeah. I was just like, because when you hear that, the first thought is like, are you okay? What the fuck? What happened? Like, talk to me about this if you can talk about this. And they're like, yeah, that's what it was. You know, starting a business, doing this, doing that, no sleep. You know, your body just never gets to reset and recover. And, you know, could have eaten healthier, but I'm not like an overweight dude. And it was like, you're kind of one of the more fit guys among the friend group. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's surprising to me. Yeah, I went for a run that morning with the dog and just had a massive heart attack. And it was pretty touch and go for a little while, but they were like, yeah, there's a lot of contributing factors to stuff like that we just don't think about. So
is this one of the apostles?
No. Although, and he touched on it, so I feel comfortable at least approaching the subject, but I'll let him tell the story. But no, he's had a bad heart for a long time. And he's had one heart attack that I'm aware of recently, but he's on, you know, going into the doctor, he's on medication, he's doing the best he can. But yeah, it's, you know, every time they switch a regimen of medication or something, you could tell it hits pretty hard. Altitude fucks with him pretty hard, just different stuff. So, but yeah, I heard that and I was kind of thinking back like, man, maybe I should try to let a few things go and get to bed on time. Like, so you look at weeks like this and you're like, oh, maybe I should find time for health. Yeah. So, you know, I don't know, weird way to start the podcast, but anyway, it has been a nuts week for sure.
It has. Yeah. It has. And speaking of health, actually, one of the things that Aaron wanted me to acquire for us as like kind of a family gift was a group gym membership for all of us to go and, you know, work out together and stuff. And I was like, let's do it. And Oliver really wants to because of hockey and everything. And Kate's on board. So we were all going to go do it. And so I went down to the place that Erin really likes that she was going to pre-COVID. And she still had kind of a loose membership there. And like they said, has not been here in 962 days. Yeah. But when I checked her in, they had gotten rid of all their family packages and they put on a ton of new fees. And dude, just for us to sign up as a family, it was like nearly $600. Yeah. And then they wanted the following month directly because they have a once a year fee per person. It was going to be like another 300 and something for maintenance and cleaning. Wow. But that was the next month. And then from that point on, for all four of us, it was like $236 a month to go. And I'm like, that's wild. I don't think that's right. But so we're gonna look around a little bit because that seemed a little high.
The startup fees are $157.50 per person at that rate. And you said it was what now per month? 230 something?
236, I believe, something like that. Here, I got the numbers right here. I texted her in shock.
$60, dude. That's like,
so it was $536 for everyone to sign up, and then $289. I'm sorry, I take that back. It was I'm over exaggerating apparently. $289 total for the cleaning fee. For the next, so, and then another $156 per month on top of that.
Yeah.
So it was a little crazy to do that. And I was like,
well, I kind of wondered, like, especially around the pandemic, I'm like, there's probably two types of gym goers. There's the people that cancel their membership immediately when they can't go in places like that. And where they make a lot of money are people that sign up for their New Year's resolution and then just keep that $12 to $15 to $25 to $50 a month payment going and forget about it and just don't go, and they just keep collecting money. But yeah, that seems high. That seems high for a health club.
I think what they're trying to do, because she said, we got rid of the family plans because of divorces and stuff like that made it really complicated to kind of weed through the details. And to a degree, I understand that. However, honestly, I think the reason what they were actually doing with that is they're trying to curate their clientele.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that they had a large clientele to start off with, and now what they're trying to do is only get a particular brand of human in there, and and by upping the fees, that does that, and
they changed their name to Elitist Fitness.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So I think that and Aaron, went to high school with the guy who owns the thing. So like, but it just seemed very obvious to me that was what was going on there, that there was a slight fee increase to kind of eliminate some people.
Yeah.
Such as myself, who was like, I'm going to use this 2 to 3 times a week.
Right.
And I don't need to pay this kind of money for that, so, but so they want big buff gym rats who are going to make them look good, that have a lot of money and drive nice cars.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep. And that's fine. I do not begrudge them that business model at all, but I also just know that that's not designed for me and my family. It's not a family place. It is a place. It is a beefcake meat market. Is what it is. So.
And I appreciate those sliding scale types of arrangements too. Like I long said about the ridiculousness of the King County's favoritism on Metro, and then charging what they charge to register your car and shit. And I'm like, well, how about this? I'm never going to ride the bus, and I don't want to pay all these extra fees and taxes to Metro. So I'll propose a little bit of a trade. You knock down how much I should pay for my car registration. And if and when I do have to ride the bus somewhere, my ticket should cost me $235 to get to downtown Seattle. And I will happily pay it because that's what I need to do to ride the bus that day. Because I'm a car driver and I lost the right to have the ride free and the $2 bus ticket and blah, blah, blah. Conversely, if you're stuck on the bus and or it's more convenient for you and that's your primary method of transportation and you choose to register a car and that's how you slot it in, you should have to pay what I'm paying right now to register my car so you can be on the road with the rest of us.
Yeah.
I think it's fair. And you can keep ride free.
Fair. Yep.
But anyway, I digress. So yeah, so it's almost Christmas. We're excited about it. I'm just trying to get through work so I can get to enjoy the Christmas part. I finally put up the tree, which is unlike me. Normally I have it up Thanksgiving night and I'm just like staring at it for like a month,
Yeah, but we actually did the same thing last night. We got the kids, and
it's
Aaron and I didn't touch it. Like Aaron and I just go do it, kids, this year. And we realized that, first of all, it's the latest we've ever had the tree up.
Yeah.
It is one of the nicest looking trees that we have. The kids did
a really good job. You get a fake one, or did you go chop one down?
No, we didn't chop one down. We got a real one from.
Picked it from a tree farm.
Yeah,
got it.
And so, but we got a really nice one this year. Normally they're kind of patchy and stuff, but this year it's really nice, and the kids did a really good job with it. However, we realized that it's funny, the perspective that my wife had it was actually hilarious, because she was like, it just occurred to me that we don't have too many years of this, like, decorating the tree with the kids anymore.
Mm-hmm.
This, we've got maybe 2 or 3 left, and then it's going to be done. And then there was a pause, and I was like, yeah, in my heart, I'm like, oh man, you're right. And then she finished her sentence by saying, and then I'm going to have to do it. I was like, oh, it's the chore factor that is really bugging you on this. And so, and
it's not like you
yeah.
roll in with a giant vat of popcorn kernels and be like, string these, woman, put them on my tree.
In fact, I'm the one that normally decorates the tree, not her. So I don't know what she's complaining about, but like,
I'm the first person to stand up and down about that. I wanted to do a lot differently. Last year's my first year in this house, and I wanted to do my first Christmas in the house and bring, some folks down. None of the planes were flying. I had all the food. I think we talked about that. I was giving food away, right? But I elected for a tree that snaps together in 3 parts, and then you can kind of bend, like fluff out all the branches and stuff. And it has lights integrated into it for a couple of reasons. One, it's really cool, and I can like put my own designs in the LEDs where like I could turn on a mode where it's like Pac-Man is chasing ghosts around the tree in circles and stuff.
Oh, dude, that's actually like really cool.
An American flag waving on it and stuff. So there's like a ton of cool features to it in that respect, but also like real trees are near impossible to find where I live in the desert that aren't like sticks that are like half burnt. And then the disposal's a little risque too, because everything can catch fire pretty easy down here just on how dry it is, even if it's not in the hot season. So I was like, yeah, maybe the fake tree's the way to go, even though I don't think you can. You can't compare with the smell, of a real tree.
Right. But I would imagine that you guys have a real strong fake tree market in Nevada.
Yeah, big time. Yeah, they're everywhere. Yeah. And they go for high dollar. Like, I feel like I captured one at one of those Joann's Fabrics types of places, which I never go into, but the internet's like, hey, if you want the best deal on the Twinkly brand tree that you keep searching for, you should check these guys out. And they had like 6 of them. And I was like, oh, this is great. So as I was buying it last year, this woman, like stout little German woman, probably in her late 60s, early 70s, was like slinging trees onto this giant like shopping cart that was like a flatbed shopping cart, like you'd find at a wholesale place,
Oh yeah.
And she's just slinging them on there like, oh, this one's for the guest room, and I'm taking that one. And she's just marching out with all these trees. I was like, well, thank God I got one. Damn. But yeah, I finally put it out. I have some cute ornaments I put on there. I wrapped up some presents. I threw them under there. And now I'm just kind of staring at it like.
You got any visitors? Is like Dad's not coming out, right?
Dad's not going to make it out. I think it's going to be a solo run, me and the significant other. Yeah. I think she's going to come down and we're just going to hard chill. I picked up a roast and realized, or a prime rib, a small one. But I realized that I may have bought it way too soon, being that I picked it up yesterday. But I'm just like, oh man, I got like another week. I'm like, do I freeze it? What am I going to do? So I might make early dinner and we might have early Christmas dinner because I don't want it to spoil. It was like $30, So I'm like, I don't want to throw that away.
What's your Christmas Eve ritual look like?
Yeah, dude. So when we were kids, man, Christmas Eve was pretty rad because we either got to open one present or we got to get the stocking generally.
Right.
But when I was growing up, there was always a ton of other people that were like squatting on my parents' property somewhere, like all the time. So it was really a chance to do something nice for those folks that would come in, whether it was, Tanisha's mom or Kim and the kids, or like this whole slew of folks. It was just a big deal. So it was always a chance to do something cool for them, or like
carousel of need.
It was a carousel of need. It was a cornucopia of need. That often took precedence over the family, which is something I'm still working through as an adult. But I think it was for the best. Ultimately, I can look back and go, I get it. But that was
definitely mine some good. Like as an adult, looking back on that, like as a kid and as a teenager, and even as a young adult,
oh, it's aberrant.
Yeah, you're like, there's a heavy resentment that those people's needs came before yours. But if you like what you can do, like what ends up happening as an adult, you end up mining more good out of those scenarios and realizing, oh, wait a minute, there was a purpose to that. There was actually, and I learned a lot from that. And it's amazing that transition that happens as you get older and you look back on the things that used to cause you resentment, and now you look at it and go, I'd be a different person had that not happened.
100%. And I think like even now I can spot the points where it's like the execution maybe wasn't there, but I see the intent, and like exactly. You know, that's the piece that resonates for sure. You know, Thanksgiving was a little bit different in that there was always you know, a massive drive for the soup kitchen, like how many turkeys we put on the street this year, how many jackets did we raise, like that kind of stuff was always sort of the focal point. And there was this place in Rathdrum called Movie Land Video or Movie Time Video, and it was like a knockoff Blockbuster. My sister and I every year, even to our late teenage years, would go to this place on Thanksgiving. And the reason we did it on Thanksgiving or the night before Thanksgiving is because they would close Thanksgiving and the following day after that. And if you landed a weekend, you got 2 free days of your rental after that. And we would always, even if the N64 was out or the new Xbox, we would always rent a Super Nintendo Entertainment System or a regular Nintendo Entertainment System in the giant black suitcase box that it came in that was dirty and smelled like Dorito chips and all that stuff. And we would rent like push in like cartridge video games, and we would play dumb games that were like built to fail, like Contra. There was a Bible stories game where you could be like Moses and you had to like carry this infant in a basket on your head and like run and jump over snakes coming out of the Nile and shit.
I have to have this game.
Dude. And then this game. Oh, dude. And then if like you were about to get hit, you could literally throw the child and the bassinet would like bounce on other obstacles in the map. It was a full side scroller. And then you could like get away from danger, but then you had to run and go, you know, press down and A and pick the child back up over your head. And you're like running around with a bassinet, and you can't beat the first level. Like we can't. I love it. And hours we would sit there and just pass in the controller. But we did this routinely for years and years. And that always stuck out to me. You know, it's like heavy snow's coming. We're going to get a bunch of extra days on this rental for the same price. And we're going to get the same shit we get every year and just veg out on terribly coded video games. So that was our awesome, kind of our tradition there. But that was my Christmas tradition generally, was you either do something for the folks that were there, and also you get to look forward to the stocking or like maybe one Christmas present. Yeah. But then the anticipation, you didn't sleep. You know, you like finally hit, you're right back up at 6 a.m. and you're just, you know, lurking at the tree like a crack fiend, just like waiting for the parents to crawl out of bed. So that was kind of our thing. This year, I don't know, man. I got to find, we talked about this, like me trying to find new traditions. Maybe I stock some Christmas carolers like on Paparazzi and just live stream it or something. But I got to figure something out.
As far as like a simple one that you could do that it doesn't involve potential felonies. Yeah. Is what we do. And before I get into this, I got to tell you, because you just reminded me of something I saw this week that blew my childhood mind, and it's going to mess you up too. Okay. I saw a video yesterday, and I had to show it to Aaron because it was nuts, because I was like, there's no way. But apparently with the original Nintendo system, when you put the game in and you pushed it down into the little thing, apparently you didn't need to push it down.
No, you didn't.
Apparently that's unnecessary. It's already made connection. You can just slide it in. And in fact, apparently it works better if you don't push it down. So every time we blow it out and then push it up to the ledge and let it like click down on the ledge of it, all unnecessary. Yep. It was all BS. Yeah. You just put it in. You can even leave the lid up. It doesn't matter.
Oh yeah. Nothing. We had to leave the lid up routinely because the game wouldn't make the pin connections, and you'd watch it and you're like, is the spring bad? And so we left the door open just to stare at the cartridge itself intermittently between gaming sessions just to see. Because if you bump it, it's going to go offline. Right. Yeah. Like routinely. So yeah. That's, and now,
never knew.
Now I think on Amazon for $20, you can get every Nintendo game ever made that's ported and ROMmed over to a device that's solid state memory that looks like an old Nintendo. It has like similar style controllers it looks enough like without infringing on copyrights kind of thing.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I was like, but it still has the old RCA like AV plug-in, the red and the white connection.
Right. Yeah.
And I think they did that as a middle finger to the consumer, like go find a TV with input output for video and RCA.
Yeah.
Because CRT TVs are nowhere. But
Nowhere.
yeah, I think you can just get these things for cheap now. But that's incredible. Yeah.
That was a sidetrack story but anyway, the tradition that we have started on Christmas Eve, because especially when you have family or you're engaging with other friends and groups and stuff around the holidays, it gets overwhelming and it gets expensive, and you feel obligated to have Christmas dinner, but then also but only people want to spend time on Christmas, so sometimes people want to come over at Christmas Eve, so then you have to have two dinners,
right?
And we decided not to do that anymore. In fact, what we do and have done for years now is Christmas Eve is hot wings night.
Yeah.
And we just make a ton of hot wings, which will all be done on the smoker, and I love it. I love this tradition. The kids love it. Aaron loves it. We all love it because it's low maintenance, it's delicious, and we don't have to worry about it. And if anyone's coming over, we're like, you're coming over, you're eating hot wings. And so, but it's become something that I think, even my kids will probably carry on,
nice.
Because of the fact that it's just kind of unique and low maintenance for a time frame when everything is high maintenance.
Yeah.
The whole world is high maintenance around Christmas, and it sucks.
Well, and that's why, I have no problem hosting too, because A, I'm in a familiar environment, and B, nobody really has to do anything. They can all just relax, and it's like, I can smoke up some hot wings and put a bunch of different metal bowls out. You can pick your sauce, and we'll just toss them right there and put them on your plate or whatever. Way easier than carry out or whatnot. But yeah, that was kind of the intention, was like, if you're all going to fly down and do this whole thing and stress about it, and I can cover something like wine and dinner,
right.
in a chill environment. So yeah, I think I'll try to adopt something like that. She'll be here before Christmas Eve, so maybe we'll roll with some hot wings, get a vat of ranch and blue cheese, and just go ham.
Yeah, it's great. And you can do it in your PJs while you're watching Christmas movies and just go, tomorrow's the day. Today we relax.
Yeah.
After everything's all set, we're good to go. And then tomorrow we do all the other stuff. But I think my favorite, and as a child, my favorite Christmas, there was a lot. I had a lot of good magical Christmases, but the one that kind of sticks out is right after my mom married my stepdad. My mom was very poor. And I was a very easygoing, understanding child. And so I got it. I understood my mom didn't make a lot of money, but she had really good intentions. And if she could, she would, but I knew that she couldn't. So I wasn't going to complain that she couldn't. I was going to accept what I got and be okay with it. And I was really good that way as a kid. But then my mom ended up marrying this man who had a couple of kids of his own, and he had he was, I wouldn't say well off, but he made good money, right? And so for the first time in my life, it was a very strange Christmas, because this was 85, 86, I think 85. And it was right after Voltron became huge. And all I wanted was a Voltron, man. Growing up, I used to pretend that I had a Voltron. And they had multiple different versions, but the one that was the standard was about, this tall.
Yeah.
And it was metal lions, and all 5 lions all merged together. But they were even at the time in 85, it was like a $200 toy.
Oh,
right?
wow.
So it was not something that my mom was ever going to be able to come close to getting.
Right.
And I knew it. So it never really, actually, I want to get a Voltron tattooed on my stomach that says long suffering in the Voltron writing, just as a reminder. But that's been a long time plan, but I haven't had the guts to get my guts tattooed. But
Like my pony tattoo. One day.
one day, next time when I come down to visit, I'll bring my stuff and you'll get your pony. So so yeah, I got with that Christmas. I remember getting that Voltron, and it was just like shocking to me.
Yeah,
because it was not only the Voltron, it was also a dozen He-Man figures and a dozen of other, like more than I could have ever wanted in 5 Christmases. I got in one Christmas, and it was like bizarre to me. But that Voltron was it stuck in my mind forever.
The Holy Grail.
Yeah, and as far as like adult Christmases go, man, I don't know. There's been a lot. Every Christmas is a different type of special and magical when you got the kids and stuff.
Yeah,
and
I'd imagine.
But I remember there was this one that like I had a particularly good year, and I the tree was embarrassing. I think we took photos of it. It was embarrassingly buried in presents, like halfway up the tree, all under the tree, and then about 4 to 5 feet out, and then up, and like the top of the tree was poking out, and it was obviously there was a couple of really big things like the kids got like that weren't necessarily expensive, just large, but there was a lot of stuff. And it was just kind of like that moment. I was like, okay, I'm doing this. Like, this is, I've got kids and I'm providing in this way. And it was really good for me. But just every year I read, the same Night Before Christmas book that the kids got when they were little on Christmas Eve. I've created a good pattern of tradition for them.
Yeah.
We're changing it a little bit up this year. Normally they get their Christmas Eve box, which they open together as brother and sister.
Ah, nice.
And make sure that they do that every year. But they always get a pair of PJs, a movie, and a pair of either like really cool fuzzy socks or slippers, and then a packet of popcorn and a packet of hot chocolate, so they can get in their PJs, watch their movie.
Right.
And this year, the kids are a little older. They don't really wear PJs, and it's kind of cheesy. And DVDs and Blu-rays have become more obsolete.
Oh yeah,
year after year to
physical
the point where
media is difficult to
yeah. And so we don't. Our Blu-ray player broke, and now we're like, we don't even have anything to play most of these things on anyway.
Oh no!
Of like well,
the Xbox will.
Yeah, it will. We've got a couple of video game machines that'll do it, but so we're not completely out of luck. But it just occurred to me, I was like, even last year they were pretty obsolete. The year before they were getting there, and this year they're just completely like. So instead,
you're gonna find them at the dollar store next year,
right? So instead, we now have, instead of PJs, I got them each a hoodie. And then instead of a DVD, I got them each a classic novel. So I got each kid a classic. And one of them was, I got Kate Bram Stoker's Dracula, and I got Oliver, what is it? It's...
They're not going to watch this, are they?
Beowulf. But not until after Christmas.
Okay.
Kate was pretty much there when I bought all this stuff anyway. But
now here's what you should do. You should the hoodies should say Dad's favorite, Dad's second favorite, but then you make the children choose for themselves.
Fight for it, not choose. Fight.
Snap some pool cue, make it fast.
Whoever comes out with both of their eyes gets this sweatshirt. So,
like, I didn't do it. You did this. No, I'm just joking. No, I think that's cool.
But yeah. So, but yeah, no, Christmas is. I'm looking forward to being done with the gauntlet of it.
Yeah.
Which seems to, as the economy gets worse and worse, seems to be harder and harder and more stressful every year. I'm very much looking forward to this portion of the year being done, and I'm normally like in it, but this year it's been kind of hard to get in it. and I really want to be, and then so I tried to get it all done, all the stuff done this week, so that way I had a week to kind of just not worry about stuff and actually get in the zone of Christmas.
Yeah.
Um, and that's hopefully what's going to happen. But it's been a harder year for me to really get Christmas cheer, and I'm Christmas dad. I love Christmas, but this year it's been a little rough.
That's honestly
So,
same in for completely separate reasons, I'm sure. But similarly, I'm usually Joe Christmas when Thanksgiving rolls around. I'm like, it's Christmas month, like let's go.
right.
And I'm like dragging ass just to I'm like, just put the tree up, just wrap the stuff you got, put them under the tree.
Yeah.
Like I got a fireplace now, which is awesome. So I hung some stockings, just 2 of them, but they're up there. One of them's empty. I'll probably put a potato in my own stocking. Just like, oh, I got a potato. But yeah, it's been kind of rough. Yeah,
an orange in there. That's what
I should put an orange.
Yeah,
one piece of coal.
Because the tradition, there's always a tradition of putting an orange in
Right.
Christmas stocking. So I still do that. Like
I feel
bought
like
a
that's
bag
where
of
that
oranges.
that chocolate ball that is basically orange flavored chocolate, and you have to
Yeah, it's gross.
and you have to like smack it really hard on something to break the pieces off of it or whatever. I wonder.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of it either, by the way. I wonder if that's where that came from. Kind of is like the orange.
I think so.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Because I only see it around Christmas.
Well, and that goes way back into like historically because oranges were rare, especially in the Midwest and stuff. So they were a high valued commodity to get an orange, and so it was a real special treat to get an orange. And actually, they learned. I learned about it from the Laura Ingalls Wilder books. She would always say whenever Christmas would come around per each individual book, they would always talk about the orange that they would get in their stocking and how special it was. And so that's where the tradition of the orange in a stocking comes from. Is the fact that if you could get citrus in like the middle of the country, not like, in Florida, essentially, because prior to orange groves being implemented into California, the only place you could get them was in the southeastern tip of the country. So like,
and that's where I screwed the story up, because I always thought it was St. Nicholas and St. Ron DeSantis got together and collaborated on the blessings of the Florida orange. I got it.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a common misconception.
Yeah.
I mean, Ron DeSantis, the saint,
patron saint of citrus on Christmas.
Yeah, the patron saint of citrus. Ron DeCitrus.
Ron DeCitrus.
Ron DeCitrus.
Blessings upon you. A tangerine for all the girls and boys, Oh my gosh. No, but I am looking forward to it though, like it's also a good time. It's a real good time that it lands on Monday, right? So
for me, like I said before, it falls on my day off, and for me, I actually prefer it when the holidays fall on my days off.
Yeah,
most people don't. But
I like when it lands on Monday because I get 3-day weekends back-to-back weeks, because immediately following Christmas will be New Year's on the same week. Yep. So yeah, it's a good time.
Yeah, the end of that, like right before New Year's, is Oliver's 15th birthday. So like I get hammered in December. It's just
you don't really have a slow season though. Yeah.
Well, there's pockets, like there's not really a whole lot going on in May for me other than like Mother's Day. But and so like January is kind of like a brief reprieve before Valentine's Day in February, and then my anniversary in March, and then April is kind of loose, I think, and then May is a little loose. There's still Mother's Day, and then June is my birthday and then Father's Day. It's a double whammy for me. Bing bang boom. Yeah. But then July is my wife's birthday, and then I get my kind of reprieve, which is August. I have a couple of birthdays, including yours and my sister. But July is Aaron's birthday, and then August, September, and then all the way through most of October, and then once Halloween hits, I call it the gauntlet between then and March.
And I think
so it's like,
I think humankind has been doing it wrong because you're like, well, we have this significant date for celebration. We should do the next one over here, or we should get married on this date, or whatever. It's a summer wedding. But then as you get older, you realize like you have all these marker dates that happen every month for all 12 months. And you're kind of just like, man, there's
no getting away from it.
That's why you should have all your kids on Christmas and have Christmas on Christmas and get married on Christmas. Just really frees up the schedule for the rest of the year if you need to plan forward, It adds that flexibility.
I do recommend to all young couples listening that do not get married on 3 dates.
Yeah.
3 dates. That is Valentine's Day, New Year's Day, or New Year's Eve, either one, or St. Patrick's Day like I did. Because you think that, we'll always remember and it'll be a party every year. But guess what the 3 hardest holidays to find daycare are on?
Yeah.
Those 3 days.
Or a restaurant reservation, or if they're even open,
Yep. So like, it became problematic when the kids were a little younger and we're like, ooh, no one wants to babysit during this time frame. So
finding a babysitter to help you out on St. Patrick's Day. Yeah. Probably rough.
Yeah. Choose a different day. That's word to the wise. And I would suggest not the day after those days, by the way, because everyone's going to be hungover. The quality
of care is going to diminish quite a bit. This year, I don't recall, probably for work, I had to fly out of Las Vegas on the morning after St. Patrick's Day. And I had an early flight. Dude, it was like zombie land. You could smell people on the plane. No one knew where their flight was. Nobody wanted to be alive or awake at that point. They're just like falling forward through the security gates. And I'm just like, this was the worst time to try and fly up. It was for work, but I was like, I'll take an early flight. None of the drunks will be up yet. Boy, was I wrong. Nobody went to bed. They're all just coming down. I was like, dude, it was bad. Like someone's dry heaving in the, like you can hear, it was brutal.
You're like, am I on a Greyhound bus going to Stockton, California? Like, what is
exactly? Hop off the Greyhound station in beautiful Tacoma. Like, what? How did I get here? It was brutal. So heads up, try not to travel on the 18th if you can help it from Vegas.
Yeah, it's gross.
Yeah.
Hey, you said you had a story that, now that we're done talking about holiday cheer.
Oh yeah.
This
is fun. Okay. I've been getting hit with a bunch of mailers in the mailbox and daily for like 2 months. And it's gearing up for the presidential election. Right? Like we know how you register to vote, so we're going to try and pre-calculate your favorite candidate among each party. And then it's up to them to debate it out and vote forward. But we really want to give the strength of the poll behind him and blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, but it doesn't matter because I can still vote the other way if I want to on next year on November 7th, right?
Past the primaries, right?
Yeah. But they're really pushing it. So I started digging around. I was looking for like precincts. Does this really matter? Do I even want to be ahead counted among the potential votes backing a certain candidate just yet? I'm still kind of out on the candidate that I'd like to support. I'm narrowing it down. So I came across an article from pbs.org from January of this year. So almost a year ago now. That was President Biden's first 2 years in office by the numbers. And I don't trust pretty much any box media, including PBS for various reasons. But I found the numbers really interesting, and I figured if I just go through the article, we could give some hot takes, considering I'm not sure things have gotten better, worse, or if it's even reported on correctly, because I have my own opinions. Then I figured you'd be the perfect person to bounce this off of. So, mind you, it's a year old just about.
Right.
So, it leads with President Joe Biden notching 2 years in office on Friday. That represents 730 days since the inauguration and a whole lot of other numbers as well. The story of the first half of Biden's term, at least by the numbers, is a mixed bag. It includes a long-sought $1 trillion infrastructure bill and the unwelcome milestone of historic inflation. So it goes on. There's been more than a massive swath of COVID-19 vaccinations, but also nearly, in a year ago old article, nearly 680,000 more people killed by the disease. Biden has visited 36 states and spent all or part of nearly 200 days of his presidency in the home state of Delaware. Here's a look at some revealing data points at the 2-year mark for the 46th president. The first number...
Pause.
Yeah.
These guys are supposed to be his cheerleaders, typically.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Just want to clarify. Continue.
Yeah. Here's the first number, 6.5%. That is annual inflation, remaining stubbornly high, but may slowly be falling after reaching a 4-decade high of 9.1 in June. Sure feels like it hit 7% in year 3, and looking back,
sure does.
That's half a percentage point in the wrong direction anyway. It's not 9.1, but am I breaking out the champagne? Nah. No, I've seen my personal expenses climb up 19% from last year.
Yeah. I would say that ours is probably very similar. Like I'm in a battle right now with my landlord at the tattoo shop for rent negotiation for our new lease, and I'm holding firm and saying no, and they really can't do anything about it.
Right.
I was like, the economy here is killing businesses, and if you want a tenant, you're going to capitulate to what I want.
Right.
Because you're not going to get one otherwise. You don't understand what's going on around you.
Yeah, I remember when a dozen eggs was $6.50 at the grocery, and I was like, this is not happening. And people literally in my entire community stopped buying food. They went to farmers markets and bartered. And I was like, So 6.5%. That's first number. How about the second number? 10.46 million. This is the latest Labor Department figures showing more than 10 million job vacancies in the United States. Nearly 1.8 jobs for every unemployed person, down from a peak of 2 by 0.2%, but still historically very high. Yeah. And then I've seen massive layoffs. In fact, in Washington, I don't know if Idaho does this, and now the name escapes me exactly, so feel bad talking about it to the internet. There is a website you can go to where if you are a business that has a certain threshold of employees, you are required to file, if you're going to do layoffs, 30 days before you do layoffs. So you can go to this website and literally scan oh shit, Microsoft's about to dump 1,000 people. Oh shit, T-Mobile's about to dump 1,000 people. Oh shit, whatever. They're required to post that stuff. And some of the companies you've never heard of before and shit, but I don't know if Idaho does that where they're like,
I don't think so.
You have to have a transparency, but that is one thing I have appreciated about Washington. Of the 9 million things I've shit on them for, there is one positive. But I can see the landscape of my competitive set changing in real time.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Anyway, 1.8 jobs for every unemployed person, down from a peak of 2. That's 10.46 million by the end of year 2 for Captain Biden. Here's the third number, 31.38 trillion. I think you know where this is going.
Yep.
That's the amount of the United States security assistance committed to Ukraine since the Russian invasion nearly 11 months ago. This was earmarked at 11 and a half months when this was written. Yikes.
So
I read that wrong. That's the federal debt. Sorry. The federal debt stood at 27.6 trillion.
I was going to say that sounds, I thought that's where you're going with that.
24.2 billion. That's the one that we did in 11 months.
That's Ukraine.
So the federal debt at $27.6 trillion when Biden took office. Our very first show, I did that word association when I had that conversation at work, and I was like, can you articulate the value of a million versus a billion in time?
Yeah.
Right? Trillion is exponentially larger than that exercise, to the point that I would have to Google it and actually run the math down.
Yeah.
Bananas.
Yeah.
27.6 trillion up to 31.38 by the end of year 2. I skipped ahead, but now the cat's out of the bag. $24.2 billion of security assistance committed to Ukraine since the Russian invasion. How much money, pop quiz, did the citizens as a lump sum one-time payment of Hawaii get when their ship burned down in Maui?
The answer is, what is $750 each, Alex?
Yep.
$750 per resident for one of our states.
Yeah.
Our countrymen who had probably the most devastating fire in U.S. Well, I mean, it's up there, but
it's up there. For property loss and valuation, it's probably the most devastating, at least the most expensive. Yeah.
Absolutely. And they were spat on for this, but this is par for the course. I mean, not a single person outside of a forced Pete Buttigieg had even stepped foot in Palestine, Ohio, after the chemical spill, and he came weeks afterwards because he got so much grief for it. But they've never once even touched that federally. They've never even said, hey, yeah, let's help this natural disaster out. And then we can look at Flint's water. We can look at all the other things that are going on within this country where our administration has not even batted an eye, but will throw billions upon billions of dollars into the industrial war machine over to launder money over in Ukraine. And let's not pretend it's anything else. They don't care about Ukrainian democracy. They don't care about that. We know that. We know that they are pushing a financial agenda and using war, as historically it's always worked, as their cover for it. And it's gross, and it's insane that we've spent that much money over there, when, if I recall, in the previous administration, we could not get Congress or the Senate to approve $5 billion, not $42 billion, not however much we've thrown since then, the billions and billions on top of it, but just $5 billion for a wall. Remember, that was the big thing. Who's going to pay for it? We can't afford that. We can't afford that. And then we just launched money into Ukraine out of one of those T-shirt cannons and just shot it across the country and let it all burn up for nothing. I mean, and that is the fiscal responsibility that we're seeing out of the Democratic Party. That's out of the war hawks, out of the warmongers that are the uniparty between the Republicans and the Democrats that are all pushing for this. And when that started to fizzle out, they're like, oh, good, let's get the next one going, and got themselves a Middle Eastern war in order to continue on with that charade. I'm incensed and infuriated with the idea of it, while Hawaiians have not even, while they suffer, while our government doesn't even look at them.
That's $2.2 billion a month by the end of his second term. And that is aggressive, considering the GDP for Ukraine in 2021 was 200 million. Billion, excuse me. And we're up to 24.2 billion at the end of the 11 months. Interesting.
And on top of that, they've pretty much lost. So what did that money go to? Because now I'm seeing that, we've been seeing that Russia's pretty much on its way to taking a victory lap on that whole thing. So, wow, that was a big
number.
Great use of our, businesses within the United States, or small businesses, are shutting down, and we are financially suffering here for the inflation that this war caused our people.
At record highs in a number of decades. There's a humanitarian crisis at the border. It's absurd.
It's an invasion at the
I'll
border.
I'll tune these numbers way down from 24.2 billion to the number 38. Just a quick follow on. This number represents the number of high mobility artillery rocket systems known as HIMARS that the administration is committed to send to Ukraine. The mobile advanced rocket systems have been a game changer for Ukrainian forces, allowing them to fire at Russian targets from dozens of miles away and quickly drive away before the Russian artillery can target their position. So 38 of those, no price tag on each, but I imagine they're pretty up there in the millions for sure. Yeah, 2.38 million. I love this one. 2.38 million for the 12 months ending September 30, 2022. United States Customs and Border Protection reported it stopped migrants at the U.S. border nearly 2.4 million times, a record surge driven by the sharp increases in Venezuelans, Cubans, and Nicaraguans making the trek. The previous yearly high was in 2021 when the CBP stopped migrants at the border only 1.66 million times. I wonder if they were motivated somehow during this presidential cabinet to come to the United States more than they were the last time around. Why the increase? 2.38 million stops.
And that's just stops.
Just stops.
Just stops.
That's all they reported on.
What's bizarre to me is how the people seeking refuge, in quotation marks heavy, how for whatever reason they have trickled into rural North Idaho and are coming in here by the droves. Like, spending more time out in the public over the course of the last week doing Christmas shopping and going into every imaginable store that I normally do not go into, it was mind-blowing the amount of obvious, transplants, let's just say transplant. That are walking around every store in groups of 5 to 10, and I was like, they're literally never here, and now every store is flooded with them, and I'm like, this is not normal.
Not usual.
Normal. Nope. And so it's not that I have anything on a personal level against these people, if in fact,
no, of course,
but what it is that it stands out in a small town when you're not, when you're used to not seeing that kind of stuff. You're like, whoa, this is obvious,
right?
And so, but how is that trickling so far north? There's no reason for it. There's not an economy here that would draw them in. There isn't a industry that would draw them in. There isn't a reason for them to come up the southern part of Idaho, where there's a lot of ag jobs and there's a lot of farm work and there's a lot of construction jobs, and funnel themselves up into the panhandle of Idaho.
What's left besides, like, timber's almost dead up there? What's left besides tourism?
Nothing. Yeah. There's nothing in North Idaho besides tourism. The few mines that are left open up here are, completely full. So basically, we've got two kind of industries that people who defend this are trying to kind of pitch that the reason they're here are for all of the new housing developments and the construction work that happens within those. But it's hardly an argument due to the fact that there's plenty of, people who grew up here or, have lived here their whole lives or whatever, that are working within those fields just fine. And then also, like, all of the new fiber optic crews that come here for those new developments. So, but none of the guys that have come into my shop or that are wandering around are, in the middle of the day on a Tuesday,
right?
Are those
heavily
guys
enveloped in a construction related job of some kind? Yeah,
right. No, so it's just excuses, but it is obvious that they are not here for those purposes. So, but yeah, there's the money of the border, you know, that we are pouring. Actually, there was a thing. Governor Abbott there is getting sued by the federal government. Jean Pierre actually just announced it today on the podium that they're suing the state of Texas because the state of Texas has now issued a law that allows for the police and the sheriff's department and all of them to actually to arrest and people who come over illegally and actually deport them on their own, which is typically at the hands of the federal government. But they've said enough's enough. And as Texas, we're going to actually implement our own laws on it and actually make them enforceable.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and Abbott, I think, said something last week about, like, it came out last week.
Mm-hmm.
And as of today, I think they're getting sued by our own federal government, the state of Texas, for, and I'm trying to think of for what. Like, how are you spinning this as a humanitarian thing? You know, and everyone knows there's not a single person in the, you know, even on the extreme left is going, yeah, this is getting to be a problem.
Right.
But like anybody in any type of news faction is like starting to get real nervous about this story, so they don't really know what to do about it. That being said, somehow they're spinning it at the White House to try to say it's anti-humanitarian to do this.
Of course.
And I think that's what they're trying to sue for, is that it is, you're like, well, they're already breaking the law by crossing the border illegally. We already have laws set in place by that. That already creates the criminality element.
And when they cross state lines, it becomes a federal law, which they're breaking, which we have laws for.
Absolutely. Right. And so all that Texas is doing is now taking it into their own hands to enforce it rather than leaving the federal hands. So I don't really even understand how they are capable of suing them under what premise.
Right.
Like, you would have to have a premise to say that they are in violation of some federal law, but actually what they're only doing is really upholding the federal law when the federal government won't do it.
Right.
So if this gets taken up to the Supreme Court, it's going to set a pretty heavy precedent, and I'm applauding Texas for that, due to the fact that once that happens, you know, then you're looking at the whole country's gaze will shift over to Arizona.
Yeah.
And go, what are you doing now?
Right.
You know, this has now been, the precedent's been set. Now it's you. And after you, we're going to look over at California. And although California is going to be a much bigger fight, that's a tiny funnel into this country as opposed to the entire border of Texas and Arizona. So,
yeah,
if we cut off all of Texas and we cut off all of Arizona, basically what that leaves us is Gulf traffic and then just the funnel through the bottom of California. And at that point, it's it's basically the Battle of Thermopylae at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. your hot points are probably Juarez, Nogales, and Tijuana. Yeah, for sure. Couple more numbers, and then we can move on. 97. Biden won Senate confirmation for 97 of his picks to the federal bench, including Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. During the first 2 years of his presidency, Biden has outpaced his two immediate predecessors in that regard.
Yeah, that's going to be big trouble for the country.
Yeah, well, and it's already starting to show by term year 3 as well. And the ones like, I don't know, because I'm petty, I'll watch the live on YouTube streams to, from when the Senate actually like interviews these candidates and stuff for Supreme Court and just tear them apart and stuff like that. I enjoy learning about.
I do too.
Oh, so what did you mean when you tweeted "death to all"? Insert, whatever. From your cushy California, teaching job at UC Berkeley and shit.
Right.
It's like, I love that stuff. 89. The president has granted 9 pardons and 80 commutations, far more than any of his recent predecessors at this point in their presidencies. Donald Trump had granted 11 at this point, and George W. Bush only 7. Barack Obama didn't take any clemency action his first 2 years, by the way.
Interesting.
So, 89. 80 commuted sentences, 9 pardons. How about $3.36? That'd be the average price per gallon that American motorists are paying at the pump, which has fallen since peaking at $5.02 per gallon this June.
I love it when they take victory laps and pat themselves on the back and celebrate when they're like, hey, we created an enormous problem and then we got rid of half of it.
Yeah.
Aren't we heroes?
Right.
Like,
remember when I stabbed you in the heart? Well, this time I only stabbed you in the arm.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
Huge victory. I'll slam through a few of these. 660 million. That'd be the number of COVID-19 vaccines administered to Americans under Biden. 20 million had received the jab before Biden took office. The vaccine was not approved until late in Donald Trump's presidency. 15.9% is the percentage of Americans ages 5 and older who have an updated bivalent vaccine. 679,399. That'd be the recorded death toll from the coronavirus pandemic during Biden's term. The worst pandemic in more than a century had already taken 415,750 lives by Biden's inauguration. So, you know, just being up a smooth 200,000 in death toll.
I would love to see this article written now, today, when a lot of that information could be fact checked pretty easily.
Yep.
In fact, has been by even the CDC and many other organizations that went, actually, we're going to have to chisel those numbers way down. Because it's a absolutely different paradigm right now when sifting through all that information. But yeah, I'd be really, really fascinated to kind of have maybe, hey, let's go back to that article you wrote and kind of do an update. You know?
Oh, I'd love it. Yeah, here's a fun number. 36. Biden has spread his travel across the country to promote his agenda, but still needs to cross off Arkansas, Indiana, Kansas, Maine, Mississippi, Montana, Nebraska, North Dakota, South Dakota, Tennessee, Utah, Vermont, West Virginia, and Wyoming.
I'm sorry. The 36 are the states he hasn't visited in the first.
Those are the ones that he has.
Oh,
he needs to cross off the remaining.
Oh, still, like what?
Well, he didn't care about Arkansas, Indiana, Kansas, Maine, Mississippi, Montana, Nebraska, North Dakota, South Dakota, Tennessee, Utah, Vermont, West Virginia, and Wyoming. There's nobody there.
I think. Oh, wow. I hope our listeners like really, really pay attention to that. If you're in any of those states, I need you to hear that. That guy did not even care to even step 1 foot into your state.
Not a one.
Meanwhile, he's getting triple lapped by Donald Trump going to every state he can at every opportunity and blowing out stadiums because people appreciate the fact that he even shows up to talk to them. Not
about
even
this?
in the same park.
How about this? 197. There's no place like home. The president spent all or part of 197 days in his home state of Delaware, traveling most weekends to either his home near Wilmington or his vacation home at Rehoboth Beach, according to AP tallies. Beyond the weekend trips, he's also popped in for quick trips to funerals, policy events, or to cast his ballot in a Democratic primary somewhere in Delaware.
Yeah. He has been, as of today, he has been easily on vacation more than any other president in history. Like, it is not even close. You know, they used to give Trump crap all the time for golfing, but he's golfed more and has been on more vacations and has spent more time with lids and not doing anything with his job. Not that I actually would prefer that. I would prefer he was always on vacation and not doing his job than actually doing his job, because he's so ridiculous that, anyway.
I'll give you 3 more numbers. The number 6. Biden has spoken with Chinese President Xi Jinping half a dozen times since the start of his term. All but one of those were phone calls or video calls. They met in person on the sidelines of a summit in Indonesia in November, followed by the number 22. the minimum number of times that Joe Biden has publicly lapsed into a nostalgic recollection of an intimate conversation he had with Xi Jinping during a visit to China when Biden was vice president. Biden said Xi asked him to define America, and he responded with one word: possibilities. Biden even managed to squeeze in the anecdote during a celebration this week for the 2022 NBA champion Golden State Warriors. Go Dubs. And the final number is 21. Biden held fewer solo or joint news conferences than his three most recent predecessors at the same point in their presidencies all. This list is huge, by the way, and it continues. And none of these numbers are favorable except for the very last one, which is the number 0. And that's not one of Biden's original cabinet appointees has left or quit the administration. I wonder why.
Well, and that's changed dramatically, in the last year or two. Yeah, that
few things have been brought to light. Yeah, just one or two.
Yeah.
So that's the first 2 years in office, according to PBS NewsHour. That was written, I believe, January 20th of 2023. So earlier this year that came out.
I'm glad that we're going over this now because I have a feeling that in January PBS will, or maybe even the same author will, do a 3-year update.
I don't think they will. I think they'd be like, pass.
Well, maybe somebody else will, and then we can compare notes. Like,
yeah, I hope so. But I thought that was fascinating. I was just like, oh, okay, because I like to look at term by term reviews and stuff, and I usually go deep because around the first of the year, I like to make projections. Some of them are wild, some of them are sports based. But it's like, what's the next 1 year or the next 2 years look like, or what's trending and stuff. And so, like I said, I was digging around because I'm inundated with, we've got a big vote coming up next year. So let's start the fear porn now, you know, and it's like, oh, get in there with your, who's your candidate and this and that. And then I just started Googling around and I happened across that. And I was like, this is a fun read. I think Lucky needs to give me a hot take or two on this. Yeah, that was the first 2 years in term. So good time.
And I wish, and honestly, I love my country, and that goes without question. I am nostalgic and in a, I have in the corner of my room over here, I have the full Constitution in poster form here. I've got a Betsy Ross flag. This whole room I've got a tricorn hat over here. Like my whole studio, my whole room, and my station at work, I robustly love my country. So in no way do I want...
Is that Washington or Jefferson over your right shoulder too? Because it's like bubbled out and I can't see his face real well.
It's Jefferson, but it's a zombie Jefferson.
Okay. It's your boy TJ.
So,
got you.
Yeah, we actually did... an art show about 10 years ago that we did dead presidents. And it was a 5-hour art show. We had to do something real fast in 5 hours. And a guy named Nate, actually, whoever won the art show actually won this one-of-a-kind print.
Nice.
And so he had done a zombie Jefferson. I did a toy of a zombie Adams.
Nice.
And it turned out really cool. I ended up winning, so that was what we wanted. It's actually a really cool print. But
did you give him a copy of Pride and Prejudice and Zombies as well?
my daughter actually has that. So, but so I have this absolute reverence for the history of our country and the original intent of it, and an understanding of a lot of the historical context of what it was supposed to be and where it's steered into. And so, but what I don't want is for it to fail for my dislikes. So I don't want Biden to do bad. I would love for the man to do good.
Mm-hmm.
I would love for the man to do good for the country and for what I understand are the principles that it was founded on, what the principles to keep it, the longevity of and sustainability of what that looked like in its original intent and in a modern age, and be able to do that over the course of time and I want that for every person who's at the helm of the ship.
Right.
So my disdain for him is not because I'm looking for him to fail.
Right.
I don't want him to fail because of at the behest of the rest of the nation.
Right.
Just so I can go, yep, not my guy. Look, he's dumb.
Right.
You know,
his failure will then be at our expense, regardless.
Right.
Right.
Absolutely, and I don't want that at all. So, however, I cannot look at this situation and not go, this guy is not supposed to be at the helm of any ship, let alone the biggest one in history.
Well, I saw a conference recently, and he started to elaborate into a private conversation that he had, and I want to say it was about the ceasefire going on in Israel.
Right.
And then he stopped and said, I know, Mr. Secretary, I'm not supposed to talk about that. And then like kind of veered back onto a different course or whatever, because he was trying to articulate a point. And it's like, wow, man. I mean, the strings on this guy, like, sheesh, you know, the same feeling of like, I don't agree with you, but I don't want you to just fall on your face because we're the ones that suffer for it. Same principle,
right.
You know, but seeing the amount of control he doesn't even have is outstanding. I'm not saying be bombastic on X, you know, every day, but I mean, you can speak for yourself. Maybe.
Right.
Maybe
absolutely.
Not.
And that's the thing is that you know, we can look at this and go, guess what? It is blatantly obvious that he's either wildly incompetent or he's being puppeted or it's a combination of both, but none of it is working.
Right.
And it is hurting the day-to-day average, you know, American. And I have to, you know, there's no way to articulate really just like what is necessary to push back on this guy without wanting him to fail. So it's like, there's got to be a more strategic way to say, obviously I don't want him as president again, but we still got another year. Right. And I'm having a hard time seeing, you know, it's always doomsday. It's always, you know, no matter what generation, the next presidency is always the most important ever in our lifetimes.
Yeah.
And so, but, you know, it kind of always is. But I'm having a hard time seeing where we go because we are on the precipice of war with two major superpowers.
Mm-hmm.
We're on the precipice of war with other smaller factions, economic collapse, stock market collapse. You know, like it's terrifying to try to just maintain a day to day when we've got another year of trying to struggle through this, and you feel like the action hero in the end of a movie who's like scraping himself across the ground to get to the end of the movie, you know. And it's bizarre that I can't just say, you know, screw Joe Biden, get, you know, everything he's done is horrible, and it's true, but at the expense of only us. Like, right. we have to understand that, like, I don't want this guy to fail. I just want him out. Mm-hmm. Like, I need, like, if he just stopped right now and went on permanent vacation would be the best case scenario. But that's not going to happen, and I don't really know what to do about it. And now, I don't know if you heard about this. This just happened today. Colorado actually, their Supreme Court actually just removed and ruled that Donald Trump can't be on the ballot. And that's huge. That's a huge thing because, once again, we're talking precedent. Now that they've done it, what other swing states that have corrupted Supreme Courts are just going to arbitrarily kick him off when he has been convicted of nothing, right, and has no criminal record? But because they don't like him, because out of politics and ideology, they've decided that you don't deserve to be voted by anybody in the whole state of Colorado. So obviously, you know, the Trump administration shot back and said, well, we're taking this to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court goes up. If it goes up, if they decide to take it on, which I think they already have in a couple of other states, I think Pennsylvania and a couple others, that they tried to do the same thing and kick him off the ballot, and it didn't work. But they're going to try to recuse, what's his name, Clarence Thomas, because of his loose relationship with the Trump family, that they think that he should not be at all be able to arbiter on this case at all, which is preposterous. It's nonsense. But we shall see. This will be a huge thing, and I hope that the Supreme Court will be under the gun. They'll have to put it at the top of their pile due to timing. So We'll see probably very quickly if that gets reversed. And of course, then it'll go through appeals court and all that stuff. But as far as like if the federal Supreme Court kind of weighs in on it one way or the other, it's kind of basically the final decision. No appeals court's really going to flex on that.
Right.
So we shall see, because that will remove him pretty much from the ability to win if he's not on all 50 states.
Right.
That being said, who's in the chamber? Who do you like? If we can't vote for Donald Trump because of a corrupted concept of a corrupted injustice that we know we can't get around currently until we fix it, which the Biden judges aren't really. I mean, this is what we're getting with all of these Biden judges, but who's on the top of your kind of race right now of the candidates that are in the? Are you even kind of willing to say right now? Or
see, I'm looking at this from a different outcome perspective. I think that if that's the case, then the number of votes tallied should subtract the most accurate census from the populace of the country by popular vote, and the state of Colorado's electoral college vote should also not count, and they shouldn't be able to get to vote for anybody. They just get whoever they get. That's what I think. If that's what the leadership at the state level deems and decrees is necessary because they want to play politics through emotion instead of legal right, then they should get what they get. That's what I think. That would be the outcome.
I'm not opposed to that at all.
I would say that's wonderful. Then you can run the state to your state's parameters. And if you're interfering with an election on the federal level at this point, then you don't get to have a say. And you have lost your electoral college votes, at least for the next 4 years. Period.
That sounds like a pretty awesome compromise to me. Like, if the people of Colorado wanted, through either caucus or primary, Donald Trump to be their Republican contender.
Yeah.
But the Supreme Court of Colorado has unjustly said that he doesn't have the right to be there. Well, to me, what that does, and I think on a legal level, what that does is like you've removed the voice of the people via legal statute.
Yep.
Which is not legal.
It is not legal.
So that means I think that what that would do is then also remove anybody from the Democratic side as well. Because at that point, you would have to be able to do that. You would have to say, well, since there is no Republican contender after a primary or a caucus, and we've said that all of these people's votes don't matter, so the only person we're putting up for electoral votes through the state of Colorado is one candidate who's a Democrat, because there is no Republican, because all of the people voted for Donald Trump. And I don't know if they're trying to remove him from the primary. So if that's the case, then it would, they would still have contenders on there that are still within the primary. So Vivek,
but it's not lawful to pick and choose at that level. So you're either all in through this process or you're all out. And if I wanted to be a real piece of shit about it, I would say, furthermore, you don't get any federal benefits as well. So if any of your constituents in this state want to, I don't know, fly out of Colorado or drive out of Colorado on an interstate federally controlled freeway, they need to go through a checkpoint.
Yeah, and I would agree with that.
And they need to get a stamp. But it's not their fault, right? That's the issue. I think at the bare minimum, you should be able to recuse the X number of electoral college votes that Colorado provides and say, then you don't get to participate.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're trying to move the goalposts. You cannot.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, it would have to, because it's a federal election and not a state election, there would have to be repercussions through the executive branch or the congressional branch of down any, let's say, because, we've got the 3 federal branches, the judicial branch would not be able to really do it unless it's brought to them. So it would have to be a congressional decision, or it would have to be a executive decision. Most of the time with the approval of the congressional one. So, but right now I don't really have a whole lot of faith in them just not bending the rules and going, yeah, too bad, so sad. Colorado still gets its electoral votes. And once again, we'll be stuck with what should have happened instead of what did happen. And on a fair and legal, playing field.
Yeah, this level of corruption and mind games, and this is the type of stuff where the average American that's over inundated with information via the internet on their cell phone and everywhere else they look just gives up. It's like, oh, I don't like any of these things. And that's why turnouts continue to fall and PACs continue to push whoever's backing them. And it boils down to finances. And I think that's absurd. I think it's absurd because it's going to get struck down. All will be well, save for the precedent that was just set by trying to remove somebody you don't like from the primaries.
In a banana republic type of fashion.
That's the part that's soul crushing. Now, were you asking me who my personal favorite? No, I see. Yeah. So the outcome I was looking at differently. I hate to put a stamp on this, but
and it's early, so there's
I'm trying
so
to
much
prop
more that
up
could
Ron
happen,
Paul still, and it's just not working.
I would love that too, but yeah.
To be fair, it's DeSantis, and I'll tell you why.
Okay. I'm not opposed to that.
At the moment, I drove across the country this summer. I saw you on that trip, and I listened to 10 or so podcasts, and a lot of them had to do with people that were throwing their hat in the ring for the Republican primary. And I listened to a lot of Mike Pence. And I was like, Mike Pence has some pretty interesting outtakes on some stuff, but comes from a pretty traditionalist conservative background. He's going to get crushed. But I kind of liked what he had to say in a lot of ways. And DeSantis early on as well. If Donald Trump becomes the next president of the United States, Donald Trump has 4 years, not 8.
Yeah.
That's a real rough time to try and unpack an agenda, light some stuff up. I think the job market, the stock market, and the economy taking harder line stances like we did last time on the embargoes pieces would be the most immediate repercussion in a positive economically building type of mentality. I think the immediate need would be that we would calm down on the foreign affairs front quite a bit.
Yep.
And I think that's good, but long-term growth over the next 8 years for the country and where we're at, you can't snap term after one term and then have to hash out whoever's left in the Republican candidacy pool after they've just got done eating each other and sullying their names and stuff over the last 4 years. So if I'm looking at a regime in terms of 8 years, I look unfavorably at Donald Trump, and it has nothing to do with, the neck and neck policy hair splitting, which I will get into this year. That's the diligence I have not done yet. But I think on a long enough timeline, if we were to say you've got to vote right this second, that's likely where I would go, principally because the affect rollover and the long-term gains of that can be mapped can't be mapped for another one-term president that stopped for 4 years and started again to then unfuck the situation that's been created by the extremist left side that we've seen populating the cabinet today. And that's my logic without a lot of due diligence. I have some other reasons too that are ancillary to that, but that's the main one is, boy, it would really suck to get back on track after a 4-year vacation with a lot of damage done on the policies that he had set out the first time, knowing that it is now illegal for you to seek would be a third term, right? And that's the part that's a little rough, even though I think, what are the polls he's
polling ahead of everybody.
For almost 40% ahead of the next closest, which is DeSantis at this point. Yeah. Like Hutchinson and Christie, whatever. And I'm glad Haley's in third place instead of Ramaswamy, but I like Ramaswamy. I just don't like, as we talked about, the fact that he literally wants to change the United States Constitution. Yeah. Noble though his cause may be, that's a precedent for extreme failure.
He's been absolute flame throwing psychopath on all of the
and it's getting worse. And I think early on, especially on that trip listening to him and stuff, it's like, you got a lot of good points except for the big ones that I don't like.
I've been actually really enjoying watching him dismantle every CNN and MSNBC. Dude,
that's
he's been
exciting.
Killing it.
I love that.
him. Yeah, but and I think that he has a place and a purpose, but I just don't think it's right now in a presidency until he can prove that he's not kind of an op,
a pariah.
But so I would say that if it was up to me, like I've said before, I'm not a Trump sycophant. Like what I do like and what I want from him, I want a revenge tour. I want him to go in there and literally gut, and I'm saying like just gut everything, fire everyone at the DOJ, fire everyone in the White House, all of the people that are in the background, not just the ensemble that surrounds the president, but like all of the help gone, everybody, every single person gone. I want him to come in, I want him to throw a wall up, I want him to say no more fighting over there, no more fighting over there. I want just his presence to bring the economy up, because it will. Just him being there, everything will go up. Then he can open up the pipelines again. He can do all the things that Biden did in his first day, and by decree shutting everything down, and bringing fuel prices back down, because then we're producing again rather than all of these things that he started to implement, but doing it in such a machine gun fashion that they can't keep up with him. In 4 years and just wreck house. In the meantime, propping up and finding a predecessor or a successor, not a predecessor, a successor for the next term, and going, so when I'm done in 4 years wrecking house right now and firing everybody and getting rid of all of these, like the guy in Argentina right now is just like, this is gone, this is gone, this is gone, this is gone. I want him to do that.
I would agree with you, but, and this is my problem with Donald Trump, the man, I think the ego would not allow him to do that. I don't think, even with the most brilliant minds behind him saying this is the plan, I don't think he would prop up somebody else favorably in that respect, especially after he got done tearing him down to get the primary nod. And to unfuck the infrastructure bill, it would take a long time. That's the part that scares me.
Yeah.
It's like, so by the time you get to, hey, I'm out of work now,
Well, I don't think that anybody who's currently running against him, he would actually be, like DeSantis, he might change his mind on halfway through his term and just go, you know what, we had a little bit of beef, but now the best chance for the country is 8 years of this guy after me. Get behind it.
Right. I don't know that Trump's wired that way to actually physically say those words.
Well, he's done it before. He's done it before with other people where he's like, hey, we had problems, but that guy, I can't be here anymore. So once I'm gone, and I can't, it's not going to be my son, so because,
I liked your idea you pitched to me a year ago. Maybe it was last summer when I was up there. We were like, what if, and you can articulate this better, it was the DeSantis presidency immediately hiring Donald Trump as the press secretary. Just to be like, hey guys, remember me?
Yeah.
He gets to talk to the fake news all day.
Oh, dude, it'd be the most brilliant move of any Republican who got into the presidential office.
I love it.
The best move that they could do is hiring Donald J. Trump as their press secretary, putting him on that podium, on that microphone, just going, "You stupid, don't even talk to me." Like, just nonsense. Just keep them spinning and watch them froth at the mouth.
Modern media would be like the Three Stooges at that point, just all day long.
And not even it would have a comedic value, but it would also have a purpose behind it, because every bullet would be going towards him, and he can take it. He loves the bullets. That's where he shines, is on that stage in front of that microphone. And so and what could be done is the actual, the president and his cabinet can actually get work done while the distraction is happening.
Exactly.
And just not be, and watch this guy just take every bullet for him. Chef's kiss. Yeah. It would be the best move. But I think that would be a great entertainment for the country, and also just really good for the country, and as far as policy wise.
To your point, I heard some tidbits on an interview. I was trying to take some notes in the middle of doing some other stuff. DeSantis also is starting to look a little more favorably at the clean house approach that you had mentioned earlier, the machine gun fire and clean some stuff out. And then they, what would you do, about all the jobs and blah, blah, blah. And he had some quality answers for that too. But yeah, I think pound for pound, it was never the policies I disagreed with. It was kind of the cartoonism that came out of the person. And he said some inflammatory stuff in the past, which is what's made me not the biggest Donald Trump sycophant or fan. But I never really had an issue with the policies, because pound for pound, they made a ton of sense. And when you hold his feet to the fire over and over again on all these allegations with Russia and the collusion stuff, and he comes out clean as a whistle and very transparent. Read the fucking documents then. Like, what do you want me on stage saying stuff for? Just do your job. I didn't do anything wrong. And he's been pretty impeccable in proving that track record every single time they try and drag this guy. Yeah. And so, but the issue for me is kind of the timeline understanding. By the time a lot of the stuff comes to fruition, your time's done. And that leaves more of an opening for a case to be built about how very orange and very bad and orange you are,
Yeah.
Which is basically the narrative the last time.
Yeah, absolutely.
How many times did you hear, well, are you willing, sir, to denounce? And it's just like,
white supremacy.
What are we doing here?
Yeah.
Like, we have real problems to solve as a country and as a nation in a world stage. And this is what we're trying to drag this guy for, because our feelers are hurt. Like, I don't know.
Two things about what you just said. I think that he probably learned a lot from that first one of how to actually conduct himself and who to surround himself with. And I think that he probably has had 4 years to plan, if he gets back in there, how to execute exactly what he needs to get done within that 4-year plan.
I'll throw a monkey wrench in that. I disagree, and that's because, wait a minute. I don't need to have learned my lesson because Elon Musk bought Twitter. Now it's X. I'm back, baby. I can say whatever the fuck I want. I'm kidding. Obviously,
but he's too invested in Truth Social, which is garbage. But
I'm kidding. I know the point you're making. I just had to wrench it. Yeah.
But as far as I agree with you on the fact that most people agree with you. They liked his policy and hated his personality and what he said. And that seems to be a big turnoff, because they want a presidential president. They want somebody who actually, walks the walk, but also talks the talk.
If anything over the last 8 years has taught me, it is that at this point, that part of my ethos imagination of what I expected out of a president has died.
Yeah.
I want somebody who's willing to get shit done now. I'm no longer the the
That's me. I'm more of an
suburban single
action
mom.
guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I would rather see action. I don't care if I like him on a personal level. In fact,
Yeah.
I didn't in 2016 when he won.
Nor did I.
And it took I thought he was a clown, and I still kind of do. But he's a clown that got more done, that benefited the country, that benefited the world, and that benefited me personally than any other president in my lifetime. So like,
big
I
defense
can
that
overlook like the fact
Ben
that
Shapiro
he had
made that I kind of agree with. Is like, do you think this is a sinister mastermind or a buffoon? But is he still getting stuff done? I mean, honestly, like, you raise a good point.
I think that we have to look at it from the Einstein perspective of like, you can be like, he wouldn't measure intelligence based off of like an overall scope of IQ.
Right.
Basically, he would say like, you're not going to call a fish stupid because it can't climb a tree.
Right.
So like, there are things the man is absolutely brilliant about. I also think that there are things that he's not so brilliant about, but I don't need him to be brilliant in things that aren't necessary to the job.
We need to be largely
most eloquent.
directionally accurate for the constituents of this country. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So for instance, I often say like, there's a guy locally here, and I'll name him because he's a sitting senator here in the state of Idaho, and his name is Scott Herndon, and I know him personally. He's in all of our circles, and he's a very good, devout Christian man. He's got a wonderful family, whole bunch of kids. He lives up in Sandpoint, and I literally line up every single policy, every single moral structure, all the way. I line up all of the way with him. I agree with him on every single thing that he talks about. He's one of my favorite senators because I know that he's going to fight. He's going to fight. He's going to vote exactly the way I want him to every single time. However, I think Scott Herndon's a jerk. I don't like him. I don't like him on a personal level. I think he's condescending. I think he's intensely weird. I think that there's a whole lot of personality conflict that I have with him.
Right.
I mean, he looks down on me due to my job and my tattoos. I don't care. Doesn't matter to me. However, on a personal level, I think he's kind of a jerk. I don't want to have dinner with the guy, but I do want him as my senator, and I do want him down in Boise throwing rockets at all of the people I want him throwing rockets at instead of me. So like, yeah, I absolutely think that he's the perfect guy for the job. Do I like him? No.
Yeah.
No. And I don't have to. That's
the
point
part of me
politics.
that I had to get over. Right.
Yeah.
Because I was just like, dude, we had some very incendiary things that have popped out of Donald Trump's mouth even long before his presidency and stuff. And you're like, God damn, dude, like, this is not what I expected. And I'm not saying any president has been the pillar of,
Oh, they were all banging their secretaries. Let's not pretend that they were all pinnacles of good.
I had no, delusions about that. But it's like, boy, in an age where everything is front page now, like, that's really tough to get over. But that part of me has slowly died after watching society eat itself and each other over the pandemic and all this other stuff. And I'm just like, at this point, I need somebody who likes the words tangible and outputs.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what I'm driving toward. So for that and a couple other reasons, that's kind of where I sit, at least today. And hopefully that's okay, because I'm still trying to rationalize where I would go and what I would do. But I think by this time next year, the polls are going to be pretty clear. They're trending like an overwhelming Trump nomination for primary. Yeah. At least by today's standards, it's December 19th. By the way,
but we had a big snafu in Idaho where we no longer have a primary.
Interesting.
It got wrecked down in Boise last session out of nowhere. It came in from some rhinos that sided with the Democrats and voted out our primary. So now we've been scrambling to get a caucus together in order to even have a vote on who we're choosing as our delegate for president.
You think that was designed?
Oh yeah, for sure. What they're gunning for is open primaries, and what they're also gunning for is rank choice voting, which is a huge nightmare. And in fact, Alaska is already trying to repeal it because of the last couple of elections where they got their third choice of like votes because of how it worked out, just to keep kind of their Democrats in power there. And that's how it always works, is that you only put ranked choice voting in states where the Democrats have the minority, in order for them to fudge the numbers in order to create a pathway for them.
What's codified in your state's law right now? Would it then default to the popular vote? Because at that point, it would be irrelevant if your primary was knocked out by the rhinos in the pack, right? It would come to popular vote, and he could still win. Just based
absolutely.
On, you know what I'm saying? He or she. I don't know who this person is, but yeah, right. Like I would think in defiance of that, one could say, then let's defer to the popular vote, and you'd have to campaign really fucking hard because you would no longer have the support of the primary behind you. But it's still possible that an overwhelming majority, and I don't know that Idaho would be personally, but you know, the overwhelming majority could still vote this person into office, right?
Yeah. So that's kind of what the main primary focus is of all of the kind of political, like statewide political groups, is really focusing in on this caucus. So they're getting everyone to get together and vote in person on that. And you know, it's being pitched by.
Do you guys still vote in person?
Yeah. Yeah. I have T-shirts about it. The doom of it, but yeah, I don't think I've ever voted by mail. Actually,
I have not. I have once. Pretty sure my ballot was irrelevant.
Yeah.
The state I live in, but you know.
Yeah, so that's kind of where we're at right now with that. Is we're trying to kind of battle through that right now, because there's a couple of nonprofit organizations that are out of Boise called like Reclaim Idaho, and what is it? It's like the real 97% or something like that, which is a really odd name for a group, because they obviously don't understand the historical context of it. It is it was supposed to be in opposition to the militia groups that are up here called the 3%ers. I mean, 3%ers are all over the place, but like, but the reason they named themselves the 3%ers was because there was a theory that during the Revolutionary War, it was only 3% of the population that actually fought against the British.
That sounds like fun revisionist history.
Right. So, well, the fact that they call themselves the real 97% in opposition to that would then side them with the British.
Right. Or the people that stayed at home.
Yeah. Or the people that stayed at home. Right. So, yeah.
Maybe they should. Maybe they should stay at home.
I would love that. That would be my dream.
Who helped funded their NPO? Were you able to get behind the numbers on that? Is it somebody innocuous like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation or Soros?
Well, we know who's running the organizations, and I don't think it's anybody big like that. I'm sure that they're getting a lot of funding funneled because they have a lot of money for some reason, and we know the people. There's a guy out of Southern Idaho. His name's Gregory Graff, and he's a world-class piece of shit. And I hope he hears this. But and then his northern partner is this horse-faced chick, and I hope she hears that too. Her name is Alicia Abbott, and she's the most detestable woman I've ever met. And I'm glad that she wears a mask most of the time because it helps us all out. But they touch wiener tips as much as they can.
Oh no, she's calling in. Hang on. She's calling in. The hotline's calling.
Her ears were burning. But and that's the mean part of me that comes out because I've been, dealing with this for a while. But these two are the ones that propel these organizations to actually take, and they're at the fairgrounds here, and they're doing a petition to get people to sign up for these open primary things. And the way that they're pitching it is completely disingenuous and lying. And they're basically saying what this does is it takes the power away from the political elite.
No, it doesn't. It dilutes the opposition.
Right. And it puts it back into the hands of the people.
Sure.
The vote is now in the hands of the people. And so it tricks
Except
people.
for
Like
your electoral college votes.
right. But my sister, like wants to do the right thing all the time, but she's so busy, she's not tapped into all these things. So she gets presented this clipboard and this lie and signs it because she didn't realize because, oh yeah, that sounds good. I'd rather it be in the hands of the people than these political elites, right?
Right.
And the way that it's framed is an absolute lie. And that's what they've been doing. And it's pretty bad. And she's mortified after talking to me that she signed that thing. She's like, I can't believe I signed it. I'm never signing anything again. And I'm like, yeah, don't.
Yeah, look, man,
unless you know.
I have an out for a lot of those sign folks because a few of them stop by the house still. I'm shocked that it's 2023 and where I live, people still do this. But there is an unbelievable amount of door knockers that just show up for stuff, whether it's politically motivated, nonprofit motivated, if it's for-profit motivated, if it's solar systems they want you to buy. They're here and they are knocking on my door. But when I run into that, especially at like the fairgrounds, the grocery store, the whatever away from home, like, hey, out of state voter, sorry, just keep on going. Like, I don't have time to hear your pitch. I don't care what it is you're talking. Like, you have to be an in-state voter for this to matter to you. Yes, can't help you. Oh, enjoy your vacation.
Beautiful.
I will. And I'm off the scene. And there's nothing they can say about it, but that's how you go on the offensive. Like, you have to be an in-state voter to pay attention to what you want me to sign. Yeah. Sorry.
Bye. Yeah. No, that's a great out. That's a great tip.
Because, I mean, I do that principally when I'm visiting Washington because I get clobbered by those people. They'll just run up, oh, hey, like Planned Parenthood or whoever. And I've had some fun exchanges with Planned Parenthood over the years, too, that maybe we'll save for another pod. But the best, though, one night was like, I'm sorry, I don't support eugenics. And they were, just full, lost their top. I was off the scene. But anyway. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So basically what we're coming to is we got to vote in your wife. It sounds like she's ready.
Dude, don't suggest that. She's going to watch this.
Dude, she should go. She should go to the local government and be like, listen here, local government. I'm going to learn you a thing or two about what the constituents in your community are actually dealing with. And here's all of the historical. You want to check my record? I write it in paper. You can read all my articles. Yeah. Are you on the newsletter? Sign up a few of them to get on the newsletter and win. And she'd be like, open primaries. Let's knock this shit out. Let's go. I don't have to hang up the tree for another couple of years while I still got kids around the house. I'm on it. I'm on it. Roll up her sleeves and we win. That's how you win.
Yeah. Yeah, there isn't actually a local county, city, county, or state official in the entire state that doesn't know who she is.
I know.
And either loves her or hates her.
Yeah.
But there's nothing but transparency with her. There is nothing that is hidden behind the curtain. And that's why I make sure that and we've talked about this even recently, that's why I make sure that she doesn't monetize her stuff.
Yes.
And she could probably make some money. But I don't want her to. I don't want her to monetize because it creates purity and it creates integrity. No one can say she's bought. Her opinions are hers and hers alone. And there isn't money coming in from anybody that steers that ship. There isn't anybody who says I get to have a say in what you say.
Yep.
She's not connected to any organization. She's not connected to anything. Because she takes no money for what she does, it makes it unbuyable. She cannot be moved. She cannot be bought. What she believes is principle and principle alone. And so I was like, I'll take on 2-3 jobs if it means that you don't have to do that. If you don't have to monetize what you're doing.
Right.
Which in a beautiful world, in a perfect world, I would love for all the work that she puts into these things to actually bring bring her and a living and an earning. But I don't think people really look at I think they need to start looking at this stuff as duty rather than their job or a business. That, I think that even any civic duty, whether you run for Congress, and it always used to be this way, is that you did this on top of your job. We didn't pay you to do it.
Wait a minute. Are you suggesting that the people that we vote in office at every layer of infrastructure at the state and federal level are public servants, and that's what their job title is supposed to be, not in charge of you, the way that they treat it?
I'm not suggesting it. I'm demanding it. I'm
Okay,
demanding that that's what we go back to.
Holy shit, I had this backwards the whole time. I thought they were just in charge of stuff.
I don't think we should be paid. They should be paid to do any of these things. I think that
your point's well received, man, because in a regular world, you're dead on. Like she should be able to create some sort of income for the effort put in just to cover the expenses of web hosting or the printing press that she's running the paper on if she's printing papers or whatever, where you can transparently post this information and say, this is where it is. The second one person with some kind of history comes along and donates to a cause that they think is great to help her further her voice in politics, it then becomes, well, look who's backing so-and-so and the discreditation, the smear campaign. And so for that and other reasons, I agree with you. I think you're dead on, and it sucks. It's unfortunate.
It does, but that's
really
the world
is,
that we
because I
live
think
in.
she would make a ton of money, and she's extremely diligent at it. And I read every one of the newsletters that pops up. And I don't even live there.
She does, man. There's no doubt about it. And the fact of the matter is that should be rewarded, but we live in a day and an age that it can't be without strings attached to it.
I get it.
And so the integrity and the purity of it, for her voice to be hers and hers alone, and to speak truth in a transparent way, can only be done if money is not being transferred into that.
Right.
And the reason why is because, like you said, and it's happened numerous times in this area, even just locally, where an organization or a news source or whatever will take funding, and then the other side will then crawl down the rabbit hole of the SOS of the Secretary of State website and dig up all the financial background and oh, this guy who's a known white supremacist,
of course,
pitched in $1,500 to your business. That makes you a white supremacist. And it's the battlefield that we're playing on now that a lot of people still don't recognize.
Yeah, it is. And so it is truly like, well, due to the size and position of this root canal, we're going to have to go on in through the anus. You know, it's like, why did, because they'll find anything. Anyone, oh my God, were you a member of a communist party when you were in high school because you signed up for a thing because you liked a girl that was going there and wanted to impress her? 1950 story transposed to modern day, but like that's the level of bullshit, 100%. Also, is she interested in talking about some of this stuff on the pod?
Yeah.
I think I would love to do a rapid fire husband and wife question. I'd love to get her takes on.
We'll do it next Tuesday. Let's do it next Tuesday, because that makes me really excited, because I'd love to get her on. And she's great on these things. So.
I would love it. I'll dream up some this or that questions or some rapid fire stuff too. But I think because she is deeply saturated in the local politics, I would love to preamble on what exactly she wants to get out and give her a platform for it. Because we're not making money here, so
no.
And if we do, I'll keep it. It's fine. You guys can super chat if you want to.
I'm super okay with that. Yeah. That being said, what is next Tuesday?
Yeah, it is a day in the week. It will fall on a December day. I'm frantically looking at my phone if you're listening. Next Tuesday is December the 26th. It's the day after Christmas. So
correct.
If schedule permits, maybe we'll do it. If not, we can postpone it until after the new year. I'm fine with it.
We might have to do that. And the reason why is because we got invited over to my sister's house the day after Christmas for dinner.
Nice.
And it is the first time they have the new house that they built, and we've never even seen it. So this is our first time going over there, and my sister really wants us to go out there.
Just saying, you've had a standing invitation for over a year to your brother's house down south, and you haven't seen any. I recognize it's a smooth 19 and a half hour drive. Maybe a little different than heading down the road to your sister's, but no, I get it. I get it. And to be fair with you, work is going to command that I go back to the mothership January 15th that week. So like immediately after the holidays, we'll have a small window, but then after that, I'll have some travel ahead too. So we'll work it out. But I would be tickled pink to have her on here to go over what matters most and sort of her takes on some of these things.
The lovely aromas of the chicken pot pie that she just baked are leaking down into the room here.
No, we've been at it for almost 2 hours. I get it.
Well, and then I'll go up there and I'll ask her, you know, because she'll absolutely be thrilled to do it. She'd have a blast. So we'll just have to do it for the Tuesday following, which would be the first Tuesday in January, I think.
I think so. I'll have a couple of visitors still here. I'll make time for the podcast on Tuesday.
You'll have Reyes?
Reyes will be here.
Yeah.
I know we're going to go see a comedy show. There's also like the World Wrestling Entertainment. They're doing a house show sometime down here in that week.
Ooh.
And there's, you know, there's going to be some fun stuff to do.
You brought up wrestling here. Tomorrow, you know, the old shop manager, Zach.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm tattooing him tomorrow. He just got married, by the way.
Oh, congrats. Nice.
He actually is, I'm doing a Hardy Boys and Lita tattoo on him tomorrow.
I didn't realize he was a big wrestling fan.
Oh, dude, I did a Rey Mysterio mask on his knee a couple months ago.
That's great.
But yeah, and then he got his signature, which I'll also be tattooing on his leg when he went down there to go see wrestling.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And I also did. This is the third wrestling tattoo because I also did a Mick Foley tattoo on him of all three of Mick Foley's characters.
Dude Love and Mankind and all that. Yeah.
And all pointing at each other like the Spider-Man meme.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah, so they're all, because that's his thing, is he always comes out and he points, right?
Yeah.
So I got all three of his characters in one like tattoo that looks like the Spider-Man.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'll get a picture of it tomorrow because it's healed now.
I think when I was a younger kid, I kind of got into wrestling. The Attitude Era was like really exciting, and they were doing stuff you shouldn't do on TV, and it was like badass. But then I like kind of just didn't give a shit, and still kind of just don't. But Reyes is absolutely plugged in. Loves it. Loves the storytelling. Loves the imaginative pieces they do. Enjoys the theater of it. And so, yeah, it'll be fun to connect. I think the only wrestling event in recent memory I've ever gone to was with him. And the time before that, I was pretty young. I remember I got spit on by Bret Hart.
Ooh.
And that was gross. Because I was pretty close to the front on the ramp down, and he was like the heel at that point. But then came over and talked it out after the match was done and stuff. Like, I'm sorry about that. But yeah, I just don't give a shit. But it is fun to do that stuff with other people. It's like, hey, if you're into it, I'll get into it for the night. Let's go. You know.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go chase down wrestling, but if somebody invited me, I'd go and have.
Yeah, if I could sit down and crush beers with Steve Austin one night or talk to the Undertaker, God, yeah, I would. I would do that in a heartbeat and ask a bunch of questions, but I don't know. That's just not me. So,
all right, man.
Cool. Well, let's make a plan for that. We'll talk offline. We're at the 2-hour mark. Time flies. That was really fun. I appreciate everybody listening in wherever you are. I know that we're picking up steam in looks like the Southeast. So if you are a DeSantis fan and you're on my side, drop us a line. Just joking. Drop us a line. If you want to email into the podcast, you can do that. modernrelicspodcast@gmail.com. You can check us out on Spotify, iHeart, or wherever you get your podcasts. And yeah, man, we'll talk soon.
Awesome. Yeah, can't wait.
See ya, everybody. Have a good night and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everybody.